going to go? Am I going to do 20 years? Am I going to stay in? Do I want a family? And when I was still active duty, there weren't a lot of female role models in senior leadership military. It's definitely different 20 years later now, but I wanted a family. And there was nobody in aviation that had kids that was senior to me that could say, you could do this with kids. So I started looking for something to do outside the military. My dad had gone into real estate and was loving it. And I wasn't sure I could do it. I was afraid it was too salesy, and I'm not a salesman. It's just not my nature. However, what I learned about real estate is that you are serving people and helping them do something that they're going to do anyway. They just need help. They need that guidance. And so good morning and welcome to the Dispatch on Purpose. I am your host, Amy Dahl, and welcome to my living room. Today, we're doing our first episode of Rebranding, and I am super excited. We have changed our name, which we're going to talk about today, to the Dispatch on Purpose, because we want this podcast to be about living your life on purpose, and it has evolved over the last couple of months. And so with that evolution, we are evolving too. So I'm really excited to introduce you today to the Dispatch on Purpose. We're going to have a very special episode. And also stay tuned because the Dahl Team Dispatch Network is coming to you in so many different forms right now. From our brand new monthly newsletter to our Dahl Team Dispatch YouTube channel, which is going to feature myself and my agents. It'll have Jen on there, who you've gotten to know already, Melissa Humpert, my sister, and David Meyer, our other agent. We are going to feature things about property management on that YouTube channel. So those videos are coming as well as all the same listings and sales and purpose-driven videos that you're used to. So stay tuned. Lots of things coming from the Dahl Team Dispatch Network. But today is our special episode. So today I get to welcome my husband to our podcast. Thanks
Hi,
for coming
everybody.
on. So thank you for joining us. As we rebrand, we wanted to kind of talk a little bit and make this a little more personal and allow people to get to know me and us and why we came here.
Yeah, the cuckoo clock is making all kind of noises in the background in our living room, so apologize for that. But yeah, why are we rebranding? I mean, we started this a few months ago. Why are we rebranding now? Why are we changing the name and adjusting?
Well, I mean, we started with when we originally sat down and decided to do a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You had asked me for several months to do one. Oh gosh, probably over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And some of our agents had peppered us to do a podcast. And really it evolved because we wanted to talk about, generational wealth building, the things that my agents ask me about, property management, why hang on to rentals, listings and sales questions that are basic real estate questions and the market and questions about the market. And so when we talked about topics and highlights and we started this whole YouTube channel, the things that I'm passionate about are, teaching our kids more about wealth building than what we learned growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching people how to invest in real estate and hang on to it, long-term holds. And so it really evolved on that wealth building concept. But more than just that, I wanted to focus on generosity, things that you and I are passionate about, and giving back. And so the Dollars and Cents name came up and it kind of made sense at the time and it felt right. But as we did this podcast in the last couple of months, it's really evolved. And the conversations that I feel passionate about and my favorite ones are things about not just the wealth building, but the leadership aspect involved in that, the teaching others, the sense of purpose, the sense of giving back. And one of the beautiful things about being in real estate is you get to know so many different people who are passionate about so many different things. And so I really felt like this podcast was evolving more to living your life on purpose, whether it's giving back through education, whether it's giving back through charities, whether it's, teaching our audience about the current real estate market,
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to talk more about that purpose-driven life, living your life on purpose, and being intentional about what you do. And as I interview guests from charities, why they're passionate about that charity, or as we just talk about the market, why it's important to be educated. So the Dahl Team Dispatch Network has been in place, and we were working on that and launching the new YouTube channel. And the new monthly newsletter. And so the dispatch on purpose just kind of made sense. It felt right. And it feels more
Yeah.
right as we evolve. And so,
Well, that makes sense too, because when you think about purpose and intent, you're thinking about that can be applied to many different facets of your life, like generational wealth building, and like, securing, being financially secure and things like that is just one small aspect of anybody's life.
yeah,
Having purpose and having intent driven towards that goal is one thing, but purpose and intent can be driven towards just about any other aspect of
yeah,
your life. And so I like the fact that you're kind of broadening the scope, if you will, rather just in one area, but kind of broadening the scope into
yeah.
generosity, into leadership, like how you can be a better citizen, how you can be a better community member.
Yep.
So to give the audience a little bit of background on you, your whole life has been centered around, I mean, obviously I know your background as your husband, but for people who maybe are new to the Dispatch on Purpose or to the Adulting Dispatch Network, give them a little bit more of like how you've lived your life with purpose and intent. Where did it start from, and how do you continue to do it today?
Ooh, okay. So big question. Where did it start? I grew up in Hampton Roads.
Mhm.
I'm a local here, which is really awesome. Um,
You get good
and
examples too with your parents, right?
yeah, yeah. So I'm a military brat. My parents both grew up in the Midwest and
Hmm.
came down here when my dad enlisted in the Navy. He did 23 years in. So, like you, I was a military brat.
Yep.
We grew up in military families. Service to country and just service in general was just a part of our life. It's something that my parents did.
Local
We
communities, like your dad was president of HOA in the
Yep,
neighborhood you
all
grew
of
up
that.
in.
Yeah,
So
dad was the
even
president of the
outside the
HOA.
military, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. We'll get to know my dad. I think we're going to interview him on one of our podcasts coming
Sure.
up when he's home for the summer. Very close to my parents still, and I've followed
Hmm.
my dad in a lot of different ways. But my parents were very active parents in our life, active in the community, that type of thing.
Sure.
And so when I started looking at colleges, my dad was switching from the Navy. He was getting ready to retire from the Navy and going into real estate. And so kind of just getting started my senior year. And I knew that I was going to need scholarships for school. So I started looking at ROTC scholarships, which then led me to the Naval Academy, which honestly, as of my junior year, I barely knew anything about. And I went and toured it, and it felt like a challenge. And it was also a full ride. And so I went and interviewed up there, toured it, love Annapolis. Um, so applied for the Naval Academy, and kind of the rest is history there because I ended up with 4 years up in Annapolis, and that's where we met. But we didn't know each other back then,
Right.
as you know, and the audience doesn't know. But we spent 4 years in Annapolis, and then went into aviation and became an E2 NFO. Went down to flight school
Yeah, but
from there.
those principles to develop midshipmen morally, mentally, physically, and to imbue them, with the highest ideas of, the ethics and
Duty and honor
everything.
and
Yeah,
loyalty.
but
Yeah.
that background is all kind of driven towards purpose and intent, right? And that carries through into your naval career. So you
Yeah.
went in,
I love a life of service. I
right?
love serving something higher than myself. I mean,
Mhm.
it goes back to our faith. It goes back to the way you lead your life. I like that sense of I'm doing something for something bigger than just me. And it really went into real estate too. When I was still active duty and I was trying to figure out which way I was going to go. Am I going to do 20 years? Am I going to stay in? Do I want a family? And um, when I was still active duty, there weren't a lot of female role models in senior leadership military. It's definitely different 20 years later now, but uh, I wanted a family. And there was nobody in aviation that had kids that was senior to me that could say, you could do this with kids. So I started looking for something to do outside the military. My dad had gone into real estate and was loving it. And I wasn't sure I could do it. I was afraid it was too salesy, and I'm not a salesman. It's just not my nature. However, what I learned about real estate is that you're serving people and helping them do something that they're going to do anyway. They just need help. They need that guidance. And so, my first clients were all military, and they were stressed about the move that they had to make and the house they needed to buy. And they're still trying to get their kids into, the schools that they're looking for. And I realized I'm just helping them. I'm helping them do something that they would already do. And so real estate really felt natural to me because mostly because of my military background, because I got to serve families. And it's really evolved from there. I am now a broker owner. We own a brokerage together with another co-owner. And brokerage ownership is not something that you choose for financial reasons, for sure, because it's a lot of work. But you get to serve the agents around you. And so real estate's been so good to you and I that it gives us a chance to pass those opportunities along to other agents. And so even at our brokerage, I don't do the recruiting because I'm not salesy. It's not my thing. But I am happy to talk about the benefits of being in real estate, to being an entrepreneur, to being self-employed, to not being a W-2 employee. I love it. I love, love, love it. And so I'm passionate about it. And our podcast will kind of take that feeling too of why I love real estate and investing.
And why the podcast now? Like you've served with purpose and intent for years. You've been an agent for over 20 years. You've kind of leveled up your game with the team and then with the brokerage. And we talked a little bit about that, but why the podcast now? How does this fulfill your mission or the team's mission of like developing purpose and intent?
Well, that's a great question. So why the podcast now? For years, you and some of our staff members have talked to me about doing a podcast. And usually it was when I would, spill out knowledge about property management or share information about the market or, speak with my agents and give them real estate advice. And they said, you should really, get this out there. There's a lot of great knowledge. The neat thing about this podcast is it gives me a platform to share some of that information, but it also gives me an opportunity to share the amazing people that I come across on a daily basis. In real estate, I mean, in the Navy, when we go back to the Navy, a lot of the people that you meet are all type A and they're all motivated and driven and we have a lot of similar personalities. But then you go into real estate and it's like opening, the doors to all different types of people. And I meet some amazing people. I meet people that run charities, that run businesses, that are way smarter than I am in so many different realms. And the thing about being a podcast host is you are usually not the smartest person in the chair or on the couch. And that's the best part, but you're giving other people a platform to share their knowledge. I get exposed to it because I'm working with some of these people on a daily basis, or I get to help them buy or sell real estate. I get to help them make investments. But man, some of these people have such passion for the things that they do and the causes they support. And it's fun to be able to share that. I've met with people that lead charities and people that lead businesses and people that are just doing things on a much quieter scale, and you don't get to see them, but I do. And so this platform gives us a chance to share that information, and for other people to see what people are out there doing.
I agree. And I think there's a lot to doing that, right? We learned in the Navy that really, I'll speak for myself. But when you're an officer, a lot of times taking care of your people is basically being a champion for your people, like you're championing their successes and their stories, right? We see examples of that in social media now, even with a certain commanding officer of a carrier that we know. He does a great job of showcasing his sailors, showcasing his junior officers and what they do. And that's just one example. And there's a lot of other examples in sports and other industries where good leaders are out there with the purpose and intent of effectively kind of showing off the amazing work they do. And we come across those people every day in this line of work. And why not show them off? Not so much to attract the attention, but, give the idea to the audience and to the people like, hey, look at what you can do with you, like for the youngsters or, for the adults in the crowd. It's like, look, here's an example of like how you could do a career change, or here's an example of like what you can do for charity or what you can do to sponsor. And again, it's driving back to like being a good citizen, being a good person in society. And this platform allows us to do that. It shows the purpose and intent of really good people that we come across.
Yeah. And it's funny because I had a couple people when we started the podcast, the naysayers. There's always naysayers. Whenever you do something new, there's naysayers. Oh, you don't have the time for this. And how does that directly increase your sales? And how does it affect real estate? And it's not. It's not. Well, and I've hit some naysayers like, why would you feature agents from other brokerages? And I think our very next podcast is going to be with an agent from Keller Williams. And, people that fear competition because they don't know who they are and they don't know the value of who they are, aren't going to collaborate with another brokerage because they're nervous it's going to take away from their business. Um, but this isn't about necessarily just my business. Yes, it gives people a chance to get to know me and know you and know what we're about. And they're making the biggest investment of their lives if they're buying a home or selling a home with us. And so they really get to know who we are and what we're about and who they're working with, which I love. And so in that regards, it helps people know us and what they're doing, but it helps them know more about the community around them too and about giving back. And so I, I think it's all still real estate related and comes back to that because um, it's about knowing who you're working with and the people you're working with, and then knowing that we're passionate about telling your story and getting to know you and letting you tell the audience your story. And so, yeah, I love it. Those naysayers, I just think that they miss the bigger picture. That not everything is about the dollars, and that's why we pulled the dollars out of our title because it's not about the dollars. It's really about the people. And real estate, just like the Navy, is about the people. It's about serving your troops when you're in the military and defending the country. And real estate is about serving the people you work for. And so this is just another act of service for us
It is,
that
and
we really love.
not to discount the importance of dollars. I mean,
It,
that's
right.
obviously a part of business,
Yes,
and that. But there's a lot of other podcasts that kind of focus on that.
there is. There's
You
a
know,
ton.
and
And I get great knowledge from them. I love listening to podcasts on the way to work. And
of course, and
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. It's just for us, this is, or for you,
Yeah.
this is where you kind of wanted to take it.
Yeah. It's
with
really
the
more true
purpose
to
intent, yeah.
true to who I am. You and
Mhm.
I, we talk on a nightly basis. We're in the process of redoing our trust right now. We talk about paying the kids through and contributing to the Roth IRAs. And so there's a lot of financial conversations we have on it feels like an everyday basis right now as we're
It
redoing
is.
some of
It's
our
a daily
paperwork.
conversation.
Yeah. And our kids are getting to that point. And so we'll have those conversations on the podcast and share. Um, and talk to the CPA and talk to the financial advisors. So there's that part of it because that's also part of leading a purpose-driven life. Not just working without goals and aspirations. That's like sailing a boat without a sail or a motor.
Well,
Um,
honestly, too, what I think is important about those conversations, especially within the family, the immediate family, like the mother, the father, and the children,
yeah,
um, is like if you can teach the children like these conversations, it's okay to talk about this stuff and it's healthy, and it teaches them whether they know it or not.
yeah,
They're hearing it, so that when they become adults and they're with their families, their immediate families, they realize like, hey, these are things that have to be done, but you can do it in such a way with purpose and intent.
yeah,
And you can use that purpose and intent not only for this aspect to be financially savvy, but you can do it to be charitable. You can do this in your career. You can do this as being a citizen in your neighborhood or within your city,
yeah,
within your church community, whatever,
yeah,
right? But it's important. It's important to do that, and it's important to have those conversations. So
yeah.
I think we do that now because um,
Well, we have a lot of conversations with kids
yes,
about money, about being a contributing citizen,
mhm,
about charity, about service.
mhm.
These are conversations. I think I remember the first time they asked you why you read the Constitution in April, and you're like, "Because I'm about to pay all my taxes, and I
Yes.
need to remember
Every
why I'm
April
paying."
15th, I read the Constitution because I feel like, well, this is what taxes are for. It's going to for the Constitution. But anyway,
Yeah, we're kind of nerdy that
I
way.
digress.
But no, it is. You're right. It's great conversations to have in front of the kids and the family, and as we've done this, they've gotten to know. I caught our oldest on Spotify the other day listening to our podcast, which is really cool because we record
Yeah.
this during the day when they're at school, and so Luke doesn't get to hear these. And he totally thinks it's cool that his mom's a podcaster because he just got Spotify.
Yeah.
I'm not quite that cool, and he gives me marketing techniques, which is really funny. But it is evidence to me that they are learning this
soaking
stuff.
it up.
Oh, they're soaking it all up.
Yeah.
And I think we told this story recently on a podcast, but when we were gone in December, um, we went to a doll team Christmas party. So we were gone overnight, and we had Rachel, our assistant, came and stayed with the kids overnight, and we came back, and we weren't very far. It was just like an hour away, and we came back, and the kids were all excited to tell us about their lemonade stand that they sat at.
Hot
No,
chocolate.
hot chocolate. It was
Hot
December.
chocolate.
They had hot chocolate. although it was not a cold weekend that particular weekend. But they did a hot chocolate stand, and then they sold snacks at the bottom of our driveway, which is not something we'd ever talked about or done or taught them.
Didn't
It
even know
never
they were doing it.
had no idea they were doing it. And so I first am alarmed that they sold, I was scared that they sold off all our lunch snacks. But, Luke proceeds to tell us that no, he found the old Halloween candy that I had stashed and meant to throw away. And he sold that at the end of the driveway with hot chocolate. But that they had made a bunch of money with the neighborhood kids and they were donating a portion of it to charity. And so I was so touched because you and I had never had this conversation with them. We hadn't taught them, we hadn't given them the supplies. They used our baseball wagon and sat up at the end of the driveway.
In
They,
fact, that's how they marketed
oh yeah,
that the fact that they were going to give 50% of their proceeds
to
golden paws, which
yeah,
was
yeah. It was well. It ended up being I think 15% is what they said. They gave 15%.
no, it was 55.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was 50%. I can't remember. I do remember, and I don't know that we've shared this story, that they're learning, so they're learning charity from us, right? And I was very touched and moved by the fact that they're absorbing everything because we were in it's December and we were in the middle of discussions about where we wanted to contribute our money for the following year as we reevaluate the causes that we like to support. But also the marketing aspect of it. I looked at this sign that Luke made, and it was rather small and hard to read. And Jack, our youngest, our little 6-year-old, was the one that was designated out of all the kids to stand with that sign at the end of our driveway and wave the sign. And I said to Luke, I said, Luke, why would you make the sign so small? Nobody can read it. And he said, no, Mom, if I put the youngest kid out there, he's cute to hold the sign and it's small, then the cars have to slow down to read it and they'll stop and then they end up buying hot chocolate. He's like, it works. And as funny as that is, he's learning marketing. We support his baseball team and I have banners up on the fences and he has proceeded to tell me on those things that my font isn't big enough and it needs to be clearer and I need to eliminate some of the text from the banners. And now I can't look at those banners the same because because he's right. And I actually thought Sony, our marketing director, who's recording this behind the scenes, had like given him tips and told him, "Hey, tell your mom she needs to fix her banners." But no, it was all him, and he generated that. So our kids are listening every single day. And for you and I, we know how important is, to teach them through our actions and our words and what we
Mhm.
do. And so this podcast on purpose is that I want them to know that they can live their life intentionally. They don't have to sail through every day. They can get a W-2 job. There's so many great careers out there, but they can also be entrepreneurs if they want, and they can do anything they want and to just think bigger. And one of the benefits of being successful at your career is that you get to give back more. And that's what we look at it as, by being successful in real estate, by helping people buy and sell and make investments, I'm bettering their life, but I also get to use that money to better somebody else's life. And so it's what gets you and I out of bed every day. And
Mhm.
I'm speaking for you, but it's,
No, yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. And so, um, yeah. Rhythm, grace, and joy. How have Derek and I balanced being entrepreneurs and managing a family with three very active, crazy little baseball playing boys?
I think I love at first it was out of necessity.
Yeah, I would say that our rhythm and grace has evolved. We in the beginning, it's not easy. Anybody who tells you you can do it all is lying, because you can't do it all, but you can surround yourself with people to help you, so that you can do the most important things. And so we balance entrepreneurship because we're partners. Oh my gosh, I couldn't do it. You all the time say, well, mom's one out working, but there's no way I could do it without your help now, especially now that you're retired from the Navy and helping me. Before I had Derek's help when he was still active duty, he would deploy at a moment's notice, he'd be gone. we hired help at home to help us at home, um, because it was more important for me to sit down at the table with the boys and eat dinner than it was for me to go out and try to get the grocery shopping done. And so we decided we'd make a little bit less money, but we'd hire more help. And so we've always surrounded ourselves by people that either help and support us or that are smarter than us to bring us up. And so in life in general, I believe in that. Um, we,
It's
um,
kind of funny because I'm going to kind of boil it down. And I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but
oh no.
what
And so now we're going to do it live on the
we're going to do
podcast.
it live. But it's real basic, right? And for me, it's that 20-minute meal of sitting down at the end of the day as a family.
Yes.
And my parents were really good about doing that. My dad was the Navy too, so on the times of deployed. But even when it was just my mom, my sister, and I, we made it a point that we always sat down at the end of the day and have dinner.
Yeah.
And I always strived for that with you, even though I think it went unsaid, which is why I say I don't think I've ever shared
Yep.
it with you. But it was an unsaid thing. We did that. And I think there's a lot of value in that one meal at the end of the day, sitting
Yeah.
down. So we leveraged that,
Ah,
and we tried. And when I was active duty, I was gone a lot. But you sat down with the boys
yeah.
when their times are gone. The times I was home, we sat down as a family, made that happen. So if it meant that, yes, we had to hire out help to do the grocery shopping or even get a head start on the meal, that was the focus point. That's
Yeah.
the nucleus of the family, and that's sitting down. And if we have to do that, then that's what we had to do because we live busy lives. And I think what evolved out of that is like I retired just before the pandemic, and then through the pandemic, there was the work I was doing at the time dried up because of contracts and training. I was doing a government contract job that sort of went away.
Yeah.
So then I was the parent home, working with the kids, getting them through their schoolwork and stuff like that.
And my business went
And
crazy during the
your
pandemic.
business went kind of exponential. So I had no problem with the role reversal, and we were able to make that work. And coming out of the pandemic, the market was still crazy, as we all know.
Yep.
But it was working.
Yeah.
And I think through those relationships that we developed with hiring people, and even as the business grew and we hired more people for the doll team and started making that kind of work, we realized like, hey, we purpose intent, we can create jobs. We can we can still work on maintaining that nucleus as a family.
Yeah.
And still work on supporting the kids and teaching them. So I think that's kind of, it all started with the dinner, and it kind of went from there, I think.
Yeah. It's teamwork.
Yeah, it's teamwork. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah. It, I have people say we could do a whole podcast on hiring the right people. And people say to me, we can't financially hire somebody to help us. And there are just ways to do it and ways to find help. But really,
That's
it's
a way. It's not the
it
only
is
way.
exactly. Yeah. But it's really the teamwork, the having you behind me helping with the kids now, and we look at it as a team. Neither one of us is more important than the other. We do different things. Our roles have 100% reversed in the last 5, 6 is 2025. So like 6 years since the
Retirement.
pandemic. And yeah, since your retirement. Yeah, we juggled a lot. Those years when Derek was deploying at a moment's notice and gone, we did 11 deployments in 7 years while you were gone. And so those were years where, we were keeping our head above water, and we would reevaluate and look at our priorities. Dinner has always been a priority for us, like you said, and that 20 minutes with the kids, and bedtime and story time and prayers is always a priority for us because we get that one-on-one time with the kids. And our kids are creatures of habit, which I think most kids are. They thrive in a routine. And so we've done our really best to give them that routine. We do gratitudes at the dinner table. If we don't go around the table and let everybody say what they're grateful for, every single day they stop us. If we don't say prayers, our youngest is the prayer police, and like, Mommy, you didn't pray. And so he's the prayer police. And in fact, we pray on the way out the door every single morning. We hold hands and we pray. It's
Yep.
part of that is making the boys bond and hold each other's hand because they're
Yeah.
boys and they pick at each other.
Yep.
But the dog comes into the circle and he starts praying. We call him the evangelical dog. And
Yep.
so if we don't do that, the dog sits there looking at us like, what's going on? And
Yeah.
the kids are like, they feel off. And so we've worked very hard to create those routines. But
Well, I think you're right. The routines, and back to Sony's question, like what's, the grace and the joy. I think it's the routines.
yeah,
Finding ways. I think it's the routines combined with teamwork.
yeah,
Those two things together. And then I think another big thing is like leveraging our strengths.
yeah.
Like
What's our
working
coach
as
says? I'm the visionary and you are the implementer.
implementer, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And quite honestly, I'm introverted, and you claim to be introverted with an exterior or with an extroverted. Yeah, I think she's far from that. But I'm really good behind the scenes, working with numbers, implementing strategies and things
Yeah.
like that. And you're
Yeah,
like
you
Sony
can
said,
put
you're
together a
good.
spreadsheet, and I am not a spreadsheet
Yeah,
person.
right. But you can put together,
A
talking to
transaction
people,
and
transactions, and doing all that type of thing. So I think it's teamwork. I think it's leveraging people's strengths,
Yeah.
and then routines
Yeah.
come into play. That's how we, as a
Yep.
couple, are entrepreneurial and successful.
Yeah.
I think we're successful.
Yeah. I think it's important for people to know that to be real too, to know that it is not easy. I mean, we have some years where I was just keeping my head above water when you were deploying. And while it's easy as an audience to look at it and say, oh, they've got it made. They're, first of all, they're dual parent. We don't have a single parent family. They are, both retired. And so they've got that military retirement. And, it all looks easy from the outside. And you have to remember that social media and even podcasting and, Facebook and Instagram, you're getting people's highlight reels. And our life is great and it's amazing. And I'm not even trying to say it's not because we are so blessed. But it is not always easy. There are sacrifices with everything. And so on the podcast, the beautiful thing is that we can be more real too. Like, we have 3 boys. We try our best to create routines. And even with the best of intentions, it does not always go as planned. You have chaotic mornings, you have kids that don't want to do things. Yes. Are they focused on charity and giving? And are they learning great lessons? Yes, but they're still kids, and they still make mistakes and we're still teaching every single day. And the same is true of real estate. We have hired poorly sometimes. We have fired before. We have, lost some deals before. Nothing is perfect. Is everything a learning experience? Yes. And so the podcast gives us a chance to be real and authentic. And I want people to see that. I want them to know that, we didn't get to this place without sacrifice. And still on a daily basis, we make sacrifice. I'm traveling for work this week on Thursday. I'm flying out early Thursday morning, taking the red eye back home on Saturday. Super excited to network, to be with some of the top Remax agents in the country. It was a personal invite to a mastermind that I think we'll gain a lot from in business. And you're going to be a solo dad and it'll go fine and the kids will forget it. But our middle one's really upset that I'm going to be gone. It's the second time in May I've been gone, and for not long periods of time, but they hate it when mommy's gone. And so it breaks my heart a little bit and it is a sacrifice. And so it is not always easy. You're going to get to see the highlight reel of, this amazing master find. And, we'll be looking at luxury real estate in Texas and a crawfish boil and the things that we're going to study and learn. And we're doing a lot of land sales training and things like that. And so you get to see the highlight reel, but things don't come without sacrifice. And so
absolutely.
that living.
There's a great, I don't know if it's a Far Side cartoon or Instagram reel, but I saw this a few months back and it's spot on, right?
Yeah.
It's a 2-frame cartoon. On one frame, it shows basically an audience looking up at like a CEO on stage delivering a speech. And I think across his chest was like, successful CEO or something of that nature, right?
Yep.
And then the very next frame, it kind of shows it from the back, and written on his back is anxiety, stress, fear, tired,
Oh my
long
gosh.
nights.
Yes.
And it was a cartoon that shows like, yeah, it looks successful, but in reality, there's all this stuff in the background that really makes it entrepreneurship. I felt every one of those emotions written on the back of this cartoon. I was like, Yeah.
Yeah.
We feel that on a daily basis,
Yep.
and it's really, but it's rewarding too. And
Yeah.
I think the stresses and the anxiety and the fears and being tired and late nights and the sacrifices that you make is worth it.
Yeah.
You just have to learn to, and if you have a teammate or a spouse, learning how to
Mhm.
work that
Yep.
together is critical for
Yeah.
to be successful.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I have this moment in life, how sometimes you just capture these moments in life in
Mhm.
your head that you'll never forget. And my mom said one time that it was the perfect meme for a successful CEO. You were deployed and you were deployed. It was one of your last deployments, and our oldest was 2.5-ish. We were still potty training him, and um, Tyler was a newborn baby, and I was nursing him. I actually didn't know I was also pregnant at the time, and so I'm potty training one child, and I'm in the bathroom. Um, I'm nursing the other child, a newborn baby. I'm pregnant. And I'm navigating a water pipe burst at a house, and I'm trying to get contractors out to the house, but I'm also trying to convince my 2.5-year-old to stay on the potty on the toilet. And I'm sitting on the bathroom floor. So I'm in the bathroom, the downstairs bathroom. I'm nursing a baby, coaching my 2.5-year-old through potty training. I'm on the phone with a plumber, trying to walk him through getting into a house that had a pipe burst down in Norfolk. And we've got sewage issues, raw sewage issues, while I'm potty training, mind you, on the floor. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was like the whirlwind. In the Navy, we call it the Swiss cheese model when all the things aligned. And
Yeah.
my mom's like, that is being a CEO. It is sitting on the bathroom floor, nursing a baby, potty training a kid, talking to a plumber about a burst pipe and raw sewage on the floor, and your husband is deployed, and you're just putting the smile on and trying to keep everybody going the right direction.
Yeah.
And so we laugh. It's not all glamorous and
No,
glorious,
it's not.
but it is truly worth it. I would never change being an entrepreneur. I love this job. I love real estate. I love investing. I love teaching people. I love working with all kinds of different people. I mean, I get to meet everybody from,
And to be honest, it kind of
yeah.
started as like a side hustle, which I think that's how a lot of entrepreneurs start out,
I
right?
started
Like,
part-time helping my
yeah,
dad,
part-time
and I
helping your
loved it.
dad, and had the reserves, so you kind of you could
Well, I
fall
was
back, and if it didn't work out, but you just kept knocking the dominoes down, and here we are 20 years later. So it's everybody starts somewhere.
they
It's
do.
not like you just step into this role. It's kind of like you have to earn your stripes as you, and
Yeah.
it starts somewhere. So for people out there, like, if looking for purpose, intent, want to get entrepreneurial, like, don't be afraid to take the leap.
Yes, and it can be scary. Yeah, when
It
I
is
started, I
scary.
was
It is
active duty,
scary.
but you're right, I was switching to the reserves, and you know, um, I didn't have a fixed income anyway. I went from having a salary, which we know in the Navy,
Yeah.
to a reserve income when I drilled, and so,
And only
um,
when you
and
drilled.
only when I drilled, and so it is scary, but honestly, I think that fear, it either, and
Dr-
that's the difference in an entrepreneur. It drives you because
Yes.
you don't have a backup plan. There's no backup plan. Like, I have to make this work. I own a home. I am not dual income. I have to pay the
Yeah, we
mortgage.
hadn't even met yet when you
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was in real estate when we met. That's a whole nother story about how we bought the house and how we met and
Hmm.
we're set up on our blind date. But
Yeah.
and I got to give you real estate advice.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I gotta hear this.
oh, seriously?
Not
Okay, we'll do a podcast about how Derek and I met in our first home and how we got started, and it's a good story actually. And it was a blind date, so yeah, we'll share that one. But yeah, we have definitely it. I think that's that entrepreneur spirit, right? That it
Yes.
motivates you.
Yeah.
Fear motivates you,
Yeah.
and I had to make it work.
Mhm.
But I loved it, and it was definitely a natural progression. But everybody does start somewhere, and we have evolved. We have evolved from those, listings and sales days where I was juggling real estate while you were still deploying, to now you being the big support network where, we don't have a bag packed by the back door anymore. And I can count on you for picking up the kids. It used to be that you had to count on me.
That's right.
And so it's
And I'm fine
yeah.
with that. It's great.
Yeah.
It's
So
time with the
yeah.
boys.
Well, that's a life we chose too. Yeah.
before we wrap up, this question is more directed to you. Can you help hearing that you had to be more of the parent home,
Hmm.
while Amy's the one at work. Can you help tweak some people's thought process on that from your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it starts with, for me, it started with working with very capable women in the military. And you don't have to be in the military to recognize that. It could be in any industry. But I think and what obviously attracts me to my wife is the fact that she's a strong woman. And I realized that, okay, if she is strong and capable and can make this happen, then I can support that. And I had no problem supporting you in your roles. And for me, I realized that the the better I can support the family, the better off that we would be, either financially for that financial security, or it could also mean that, it's a better life for my boys. It's just my mission changed, and quite honestly, yes, supporting her and financial security is important,
But you're supporting us.
but I'm supporting us, and us includes not just you, but the boys. And for me, it was just a new mission. It just went from
Yeah.
what I was doing in the defense of the nation to, okay, I'm going to support the family and help them grow. And
Yeah.
the boys are always the first in both of our priorities, and what comes second is helping you.
Yeah.
So, from the hours of 3 p.m. when I pick them up all the way through the night until 7 o'clock in the morning when I drop them off at school, front sight focus is the boys and the family and our family routine. And then from the few hours from like 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 p.m.,
You're in the office.
that's when I'm in the office and I'm helping her. And anything I can do, and I lay out my timelines and I lay out, my sequence of events to support our priorities. I just take what I leveraged and learned from the military and I just apply it in a different sense. And for me, that's enough.
Yeah.
There's really no ego, and like, I don't have to be the breadwinner. That's never how I viewed it. The examples of successful couples that I've seen in the military or outside the military or in different industries, the most successful couples didn't really get wrapped around the axle about
Traditional gender roles.
traditional roles and who earn the income. I realized, like, if I'm helping Amy, if I'm helping us, if I'm helping the family, then that's leverage. It goes back to the leverage and the teamwork aspect of it.
Yep.
And for me, that's how I get around the traditional role or the negative stereotypes, or maybe what's the word for it? Well, maybe it is
Yeah.
stereotypes.
It's those traditional roles that people seem to think. Yeah.
And that's just not the case
Yeah.
for me. Like, I can
Yeah.
work around that.
Well, we have a goal, a family goal, and we have family missions. And when we looked at it, I mean, I couldn't pay somebody 6 figures to do what Derek does for our team behind the scenes. He's the one that coordinates things. He takes care of HR and payroll and coordinates even for our personal investments and the trusts and things like that. All that coordination takes time. And if I'm going to be out in the field helping investors and helping buyers and sellers and marketing property or running a brokerage and working with my agents, I would have to hire more help. And we looked at it and we said, I can hire more help, or I can have this amazing F-18 pilot, college educated person who cares more about our business than anybody I'm going to hire. I can have him in the office supporting our goals. And so it just made sense. And then at 2 o'clock, he knocks off every day and he gets to go pick up the boys and take them to play baseball every day. And so, not taking another W-2 job or government contracting job just made sense for our family. It doesn't make sense for everybody, but
No.
for us, we had the luxury of being able to do that. And it was important to us. And so it's just a new role. Your role evolved, and we as a couple and as a family have evolved, but it's always been centered around what's best for the family. And I love it. I mean, people are surprised all the time that you come from a very, and I say this as a fellow aviator, a very strong male dominated environment. I mean, aviation, I was one female in the command. You know, it is definitely a strong male dominated environment, but you're right. You got to work with strong females and you got stuck with me. So,
Yeah.
but it's what I love about you too. And the traditional gender roles don't really matter to us. It's what's best for the family.
Yeah.
And I look up to you. I chose you because you are strong,
Mhm.
you know, and it's somebody that I can look up to. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah.
I'm grateful to have you.
I couldn't do it without you. There's no way we could do it. So we're going to make the audience wait for more about us on future episodes and how we got to this point. But thank you for kind of helping us unwrap why we rebranded, our viewpoints on this and where we're going with things. And, you know, cheers. Cheers to strong family dynamics.
Yeah, there we go.
With our coffee.
Yep.
And on a rainy morning. So thank you for joining us today here in my living room as we unwrapped why we're rebranding, and for joining us for the Doll Team Dispatch on Purpose podcast. I'm super excited that you're joining us, and stay tuned as the Doll Team Dispatch Network evolves and we give you real estate tips and real estate advice, but also advice about life. And we get to uncover some amazing guests that we have coming up. So I'm really excited to bring this new podcast to you. Make sure you stay tuned for future weeks. We release podcasts every 2 weeks, and we have some exciting things in the future. And thanks for joining us.